Ways to English, Unit 5, Tape 5A. Lesson 1. Susan LaSalle practices the piano. Sentences. Chart 7.
1. Susan gets out of school at 2:45. 2. She goes home on the school bus. 3. She goes into the living room. 4. She sits down at the piano. 5. She practices the piano. 6. She puts up her music. 7. She helps her mother. 8. She sets the table. 9. She washes the dishes.
Reading. Susan LaSalle gets out of school at 2:45 in the afternoon. She goes home on the school bus. As soon as she gets home, she goes into the living room and sits down at the piano. She practices the piano for an hour every day. After that, she puts up her music. At about 6 o'clock, she helps her mother. She sets the table for dinner. After dinner, she washes the dishes.
Questions and answers. Group 1. What time does Susan...
She...
Example. What time does Susan get out of school?
She gets out of school at 2:45.
What time does Susan get out of school? How does she go home? What does she do as soon as she gets home? What does she do in the living room? How long does she practice the piano? What does she do after she practices the piano? What time does she help her mother? How does she help her? What does she do after dinner?
Group 2. Susan, doesn't she?
Yes, she does.
Example. Susan gets out of school at 2:45, doesn't she?
Yes, she does.
Susan gets out of school at 2:45, doesn't she? She goes home on the school bus, doesn't she? She sets the table for dinner, doesn't she? After dinner, she washes the dishes, doesn't she?
Group 3. Doesn't Susan...
No, she doesn't. She...
Example. Doesn't Susan get out of school at 3:45?
No, she doesn't. She gets out of school at 2:45.
Doesn't Susan get out of school at 3:45? Doesn't she walk home from school? Doesn't she go to her room as soon as she gets home? Doesn't she go out to play with her friends? Doesn't she practice the guitar? Doesn't she keep her music on the piano? Doesn't she help her father? Doesn't she fix dinner? Doesn't she watch TV after dinner?
Changing exercises. 1. Who?
Example. She gets out of school at 2:45.
Who gets out of school at 2:45?
A. She gets out of school at 2:45.
Who gets out of school at 2:45?
B. She goes home on the school bus.
Who goes home on the school bus?
C. She goes into the living room.
Who goes into the living room?
D. She sits down at the piano.
Who sits down at the piano?
E. She practices the piano.
Who practices the piano?
F. She sets the table for dinner.
Who sets the table for dinner?
G. She washes the dishes.
Who washes the dishes?
2. Let's.
Example. She gets out of school at 2:45.
Let's get out of school at 2:45.
She goes home on the school bus.
Let's go home on the school bus.
She goes into the living room.
Let's go into the living room.
She sets the table for dinner.
Let's set the table for dinner.
She washes the dishes.
Let's wash the dishes.
3. How often?
Example. She gets out of school at 2:45.
How often does she get out of school at 2:45?
She goes home on the school bus.
How often does she go home on the school bus?
She sits down at the piano.
How often does she sit down at the piano?
She practices the piano.
How often does she practice the piano?
She washes the dishes.
How often does she wash the dishes? Conversation. Listen.
Who plays the piano at your house? Nobody. My mom plays the violin, and my dad does too. How often do they practice? Almost every day. Can you play the violin too? Yes, I can, but I can't play very well. Doesn't your brother play the violin too? Yes, he does, but he can't play very well either. How often do you practice? I practice about once a week, and my brother does too. Don't you like the violin? No, and my brother doesn't either.
End of lesson 1.
Lesson 2. Picture exercises. Exercise 1. What's Susan doing? Repeat, please.
1. She's just getting out of school now. 2. She's going home on the school bus now. 3. She's going into the living room now. 4. She's sitting down at the piano now. 5. She's practicing the piano now. 6. She's putting up her music. 7. She's helping her mother now. 8. She's setting the table for dinner. 9. She's washing the dishes now. Exercise 2. Is Susan getting out of school now? Example. Is Susan getting out of school now?
Yes, she is.
2. Is she going home on the school bus now? 4. Is she sitting down at the piano now? 7. Is she helping her mother now? 9. Is she washing the dishes now?
Exercise 3. Is Susan going to school now? Example. Is Susan going to school now?
No, she isn't. She's just getting out of school.
1. Is Susan going to school now? 2. Is she walking home now? 3. Is she going to bed now? 4. Is she helping her mother now? 5. Is she practicing the guitar now? 6. Is she setting the table for dinner? 7. Is she practicing the piano now? 8. Is she sitting down at the piano now? 9. Is she putting up her music?
4. Exercise 4. Is Susan or
She's.
Example. Is Susan going to school or getting out of school?
She's getting out of school.
1. Is Susan going to school or getting out of school? 2. Is she walking home or going home on the school bus? 3. Is she going into the living room or going out to play? 4. Is she sitting down at the piano or playing with her friends? 5. Is she practicing the piano or fixing breakfast? 6. Is she setting the table for dinner or putting up her music? 7. Is she helping her mother or combing her hair? 8. Is she having dinner or setting the table for dinner? 9. Is she going to bed or washing dishes?
End of Lesson 2.
Lesson 3. Fred Mancini does his homework. Sentences. Chart 9.
1. Fred has dinner at about 6 o'clock. 2. He does his homework. 3. He does some math problems. 4. He reads his history book. 5. And he writes a composition. 6. He watches TV. 7. He takes a bath. 8. He goes to bed. 9. He goes to sleep right away.
Reading. Fred has dinner at about 6 o'clock in the evening. After dinner, he does his homework. Usually he does some math problems. Then he reads his history book. And then he writes a composition. After he does his homework, he watches TV. He usually watches TV until about 10 o'clock. Then he takes a bath. After that, he goes to bed. He usually goes to sleep right away.
Questions and answers. Group 1. What time does Fred... Example. What time does Fred usually have dinner?
He has dinner at 6 o'clock in the evening.
What time does Fred have dinner? What does he do after dinner? What kind of homework does Fred do? What else does he do? What else does he do? What does he do after he does his homework? What does he do then? What does he do after he takes a bath? What does he do after he goes to bed?
Group 2. Does Fred...
Yes, he does.
Example. Does Fred have dinner at 6 o'clock?
Yes, he does.
Does Fred have dinner at 6 o'clock? Does he do his homework after dinner? Does he write a composition? Does he watch TV after dinner? Does he go to sleep right away?
Group 3. Doesn't Fred...
No, he doesn't. He...
Example. Doesn't Fred usually have dinner at 6:30?
No, he doesn't. He has dinner at 6 o'clock.
Doesn't Fred usually have dinner at 6:30? Doesn't he go out to play after dinner? Doesn't he practice the guitar? Doesn't he read a biology book? Doesn't he write a letter? Doesn't he play with his friends after he does his homework? Doesn't he go to bed right away? Doesn't he do his homework after he takes a bath? Doesn't he read before he goes to sleep?
Changing exercises. 1. They, their.
Example. After dinner, he does his homework.
After dinner, they do their homework.
A. He has dinner at 6 o'clock.
They have dinner at 6 o'clock.
B. After dinner, he does his homework.
After dinner, they do their homework.
C. Usually, he does some math problems.
Usually, they do some math problems.
D. He reads his history book.
They read their history books.
E. He writes a composition.
They write a composition.
F. After he does his homework, he watches TV.
After they do their homework, they watch TV.
G. He usually watches TV until about 10 o'clock.
They usually watch TV until about 10 o'clock.
H. Then he takes a bath.
Then they take a bath.
I. After that, he goes to bed.
After that, they go to bed.
J. He usually goes to sleep right away.
They usually go to sleep right away.
2. We are.
Example. After dinner, he does his homework.
After dinner, we do our homework.
He has dinner at 6 o'clock.
We have dinner at 6 o'clock.
Usually, he does some math problems.
Usually, we do some math problems.
He reads his history book.
We read our history books.
After he does his homework, he watches TV.
After we do our homework, we watch TV.
He usually goes to sleep right away.
We usually go to sleep right away.
3. My.
Example. After dinner, he does his homework.
After dinner, I do my homework.
After dinner, he does his homework.
After dinner, I do my homework.
He writes a composition.
I write a composition.
He usually watches TV until about 10 o'clock.
I usually watch TV until about 10 o'clock.
Then he takes a bath.
Then I take a bath.
He usually goes to sleep right away.
I usually go to sleep right away.
Conversation. Listen.
Any homework tonight, Fred? Yes, Dad. I have some math. Well then, turn off the TV and do your homework. But I'm doing my homework now. No, you're not. Yes, I am. I'm watching TV and I'm doing my homework at the same time. That's impossible. No, it isn't, Dad. I'm doing a math problem right now. See? Well, turn the TV off anyway. Do your homework first. All right, Dad.
End of lesson 3.
Lesson 4. Picture exercises. Exercise 1. What's Fred doing?
Repeat, please. 1. He's having dinner. 2. He's doing his homework now. 3. He's doing some math problems. 4. He's writing a composition. 5. He's reading his history book. 6. He's watching TV now. 7. He's taking a bath. 8. He's going to bed now. 9. He's going to sleep now.
Exercise 2. Is Fred...
Yes, he is.
Example. Is Fred having dinner now?
Yes, he is.
2. Is he doing his homework now? 5. Is he reading his history book? 6. Is he watching TV now? 8. Is he going to bed now?
Exercise 3. Is Fred?
No, he isn't. He's...
Example. Is Fred having breakfast now?
No, he isn't. He's having dinner.
2. Is he watching TV now? 4. Is he doing some math problems? 6. Is he going to bed now? 9. Is he writing a composition?
'Exercise 4. Is Fred or...
He's...
Example. Is Fred having breakfast or dinner?
He's having dinner.
1. Is Fred having breakfast or dinner? 9. Is he going to sleep or reading his history book? 4. Is he reading his history book or writing a composition? 6. Is he going to sleep or watching TV? 3. Is he doing some math problems or writing a composition? 7. Is he doing his homework or taking a bath? 2. Is he doing his homework or watching TV? 8. Is he going to bed or going out to play? 5. Is he watching TV or reading his history book?
End of Lesson 4.